Chair recognizes the delegate at mic 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Warren Fairley, International Vice President for the Boilermakers Union. I rise in support of this resolution on climate change, and I do have equity in this program. The Boilermakers are central to industrial power generation in North America. And we have, from the beginning of the debate, acknowledged CO2 emissions on climate change. We've long supported an all-of-the-above energy strategy, a portfolio of energy production. And while we're supportive of renewable energy, we strongly advocate the need to invest in and implement carbon capture and sequestration technology. In the U.S., after nearly $200 billion of subsidies, wind and solar energy production stand at barely 7% of renewable energy. Fossil fuel generation continues to make up 60% of the world power generation and will for the foreseeable future. We should join together to advocate for CCUS technology that, with proper government support and funding, could more quickly and efficiently impact world CO2 emissions and the resulting impact on climate change. We call on this body to recognize and support the role of carbon capture, usage and sequestration technology, and endorse, advocate, and support this technology investment in every way and in every forum with our shared goal in mind, mitigating climate change. Mr. Chairman, we stand in support of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Warren. Chair recognizes the delegate at mic 3.
President Trumka, sisters and brothers, I'm Al Ekblad, the Executive Secretary of the Montana AFL-CIO. And like my father before me, I'm a member of the operating engineers. They are the miners that mine the coal for the second largest coal plant in the western United States. But I rise in support of 55. And I greatly appreciate the work of the Resolutions Committee and the Executive Council to bring together, that's a less fancy way to say assumed, and improve the resolutions on climate change that had been submitted for consideration, which I would have risen to oppose. Climate change is very real, and it presents challenges. But it also presents opportunities. Resolution 55 speaks to both the problems and the opportunities. It states clearly that we can no longer pump carbon into the atmosphere and ignore the climate crisis we're facing. It also clearly states that we need to support incentives and fundings for programs to bring new technology to the market, including renewables, carbon capture, and advanced nuclear technology. This is exactly the space where the labor movement needs to be, protecting our planet, protecting our members, and supporting our communities. The call to action for our convention is work together, fight together, win together. It's imperative that we do this to address climate change. If area labor councils and state feds from different regions and international unions from different sectors take adversarial positions on fossil fuel-based technologies and projects, we will fail miserably to address climate change. And we will do irreparable harm to the tens of thousands of our members who rely on the production, transportation, and use of fossil fuels to make a living. Montana has a small but strong labor movement. There are 50,000 union members in Montana. By the way, 45,000 of them are affiliated with the Montana AFL-CIO. I'm sure many of you just had a momentary flash in your minds, like, good God, what the hell can they do with 50,000 members? Well, in Montana, that's 14% density. It means of the 230,000 votes it takes to elect a governor or a U.S. senator in Montana, 130,000 of those votes come from our union members and their families. We have a proud union history in Montana. We have never been a right-to-work state. But like the rest of the labor movement, we are under constant attack. Workers that make their living extracting, moving, and consuming fossil fuels are the second largest segment of our membership. So decisions that negatively impact membership in those industries have tremendous impacts on our ability to fight off right to work and win elections. We do that in Montana. Your
Time's expired. Going to have to ask you to wrap up.
Okay. I would offer two things. If we don't work together, we will die together. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Please support Resolution 55.
Thank you, brother. Chair recognizes the delegate at mic 2.
Thank you, President Trumka. My name is Kurt Hankey, and I am the Vice President of the 11th District for the IBEW, and part of my jurisdiction happens to be right here in Missouri. It's one of the 5 states that fall underneath the 11th District, so welcome to Missouri. Thank you for being here, and appreciate all the support that you gave yesterday during the right to work, and hope that support continues on into November of next year. First of all, I would like to thank the Resolution Committee for their work on this resolution. Through much hard work, debate, negotiations, give and take from all the unions involved, this final resolution was brought forth. I rise in support of the resolution. I represent skilled energy professionals working in almost every energy sector, from coal to oil, from solar to wind, from gas to nuclear. So this topic is not only of vital interest to me and my fellow IBEW members in our utility branch, it is of the utmost importance to our construction and maintenance side as well. More than ever, the labor movement must be on the forefront of fighting for a comprehensive energy legislation that can balance the needs of protecting and creating good jobs, maintaining our energy security, and combating the very real threat of climate change. The labor movement represents the best trained, most professional workers in the energy industry. Believe me, we know this inside and out, and it's vital that labor is at the table when it comes to planning our nation's energy and climate future. We need policies that drive new investments into new sustainable technologies that work to reduce carbon emissions. We also need to help workers affected by changes in the energy market and support good, high-wage union jobs. Mr. President, I stand in support. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, brother. Chair recognizes the delegate at mic 1.
Thank you very much, brother. Leo Gerard from the Steelworkers Union. Let me say that our union is not new to this discussion. Our first ever conference, and maybe the first ever conference held on pollution, was held in 1963 by the United Steelworkers Union, because we knew that what went out the gate or went out the stack was first in the plant. Let me say that we can look at mobilizing for a green infrastructure. As I said yesterday, most of our schools are more than 60 years old. We can modernize them with new air handling equipment, new glass, and keep the heat in the winter and cool in the summer. We can build a system of, as Mike said, modernizing our transmission lines for power. We lose anywhere between 10 and 20% of the power we put on the grid. Who benefits from that? We could modernize the grid. We want to talk about building wind turbines? You can't build wind turbines without steel, and you can't make steel without iron ore. Our union represents the majority of workers in the resource sector, in particular in the refining sector. We're for modernizing our water infrastructure pipelines. We're for modernizing our gas pipelines. And yes, we're also for modernizing all of our transmission lines for liquid gas, for oil, and any of that stuff. But we're also for doing it with goddamn pipes that were made in America. I'm tired of seeing Chinese pipes and Indonesian pipes on rail cars while our members are laid off. We can build a green economy and create jobs. You know, the United Steelworkers have been in this fight, as I said, since 1963. In 1990, we wrote a paper endorsed unanimously at our convention that said in the coming future, climate change was going to be the most difficult issue our society would have to face. We wrote that in 1990. We know that what we have to do, but we need to mobilize together. We need to mobilize to talk about a green economy. We created the Blue-Green Alliance because I grew up, and many of our members grew up, being told that, hey kid, you got to choose between good jobs and a clean environment. Bullshit. It's either not either or, it's both or neither. And that's been our position. Let me say this, Brother Chairman. People don't know the steel industry. You go by a steel mill and all the rolls look the same. But every one of them has been chemically redesigned. The steel industry in the United States of America met the Kyoto Protocol 15 years ago. We have the cleanest, most modern steel industry on the planet. Yet we're importing steel from China, who produce 3 to 4 times the amount of carbon per ton that we do in America. So if we really want to be serious collectively in this House, and we want to have a green infrastructure, have a green economy, let's look for where we can get the carbon out of the atmosphere. Where does the most carbon come from in the atmosphere? Somebody should tell me. I can tell you. It comes from public buildings. It comes from buildings. Buildings are the largest emitter of carbon. Modernize our public buildings, modernize our schools, modernize in partnership with our private sector buildings using material made in America, and you'll create millions of jobs. Let's not be divided on being able to create a green economy if we all work together.
Brother?
I see that. I'll close with just one point. Some people get sick and tired of hearing me and my colleagues talk about the steel industry. But you know what? If you don't have a steel industry, you can't make anything. And between the steel industry and the aluminum industry, we're also the largest recyclers in the North American continent. Thank you very much, brother.
Thank you, brother. Chair would note for all those speakers except the next speaker at microphone 3 that we have 1 minute and 22 seconds left remaining on this. This will be the last speaker. Chair recognizes the delegate at mic 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Russell Hess, and I am president of the Southeast Minnesota Area Labor Council and political coordinator for the Labor's District Council of Minnesota and North Dakota. Right now in Minnesota and North Dakota, our members are on the front line of the battle between a just transition to renewable energy sources. We're building and maintaining the highest quality pipelines in America right now in Minnesota. Our members are maintaining coal-fired power plants and nuclear-fired power plants. And we're building wind projects, solar projects, and natural gas-fired coal power plants too. We know a thing or two about transitioning to new energy sources. You wouldn't think Minnesota is on the front line of that fight, but we are. We also support Resolution 55. In Minnesota, we'll partner with anyone who is serious about a just transition. But we are not going to stand by and allow environmental organizations, other unions, or anyone vilify our members and their jobs. Right now in Minnesota, we're in a fight to build a new pipeline to replace a 50-year-old pipeline that goes through the lake country in northern Minnesota. At those hearings, I have heard activists and politicians devalue the careers of our members by calling them temporary jobs. I've heard people accuse our members of being racist and sex traffickers. We have had members physically threatened on job sites just for doing their work, and we have no intention of standing down in the face of these attacks of our members. We call on all unions to condemn those who would use threats, intimidation, and violence to achieve whatever their goals. Those are the tactics of the boss, not the tactics of the labor movement. We can agree, we should be able to agree, that all workers deserve to go to work and not have to fear for their personal safety. Recently, I had a conversation with a Democratic political leader in Minnesota who shall remain nameless. And when I asked her to stand up for our members being attacked at these hearings, she said it's a very complicated situation for Democrats. It's a very emotional issue for the environmental community and some of the other activist communities. And I told her there is absolutely no way that the laborers are ever going to concede that this is a more emotional issue for the environmental community and other activists when it's our members who travel the country to work when they could be at home with their families working in northern Minnesota. It's an emotional issue for us, as you might be able to tell, and it's hard to sit in those rooms and listen to people vilify us. As I said, we support Resolution 55, and I urge all trade unionists to stand with our members as we build a more just, clean energy future. We are all stronger together. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. For what purpose does the delegate at Mic 1 rise?
President, as a woman of color and probably one of the only Pacific Islanders, indigenous folks, we were waiting to speak, and I'd like 30 seconds to say something about support for this.
Sister, time's expired.
55.
I'll take a show of hands to see do you want to extend the time limit. Those that want to extend, raise your hands. Those that don't want to extend, raise your hands. Sister has 30 seconds.
Thank you. Thank you, delegates. So I just wanted to say in support of 55, in Alameda County, there has been a huge fight. Workers at the Tesla auto plant. There are 33,000 workers, and in the past week, 400 to 1,200 has been the last body count. Elon Musk is in this new generation and electrification of cars. We cannot let someone like this corporate, greedy owner disallow workers from having the right to organize. They were in a full-fledged organizing drive for the workers, and so we stand in strong support because we need that message to go out to the industry. California just passed a law. If you want to get a rebate, the car makers have to treat their workers with respect. That did not happen. Please support us as we move forward to support these auto workers. Thank you.
Thanks, sister. The question is on the adoption of Resolution 55. Those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Resolution 55 is adopted. Thank you, brothers and sisters.